876 Stream. Bless up.
History, history, and more history. It's only day 9, and we've already seen 6 goals so far in the opening game. 3 more games to come. The Portuguese-speaking nations take center stage today on Monday. This is Now Streaming Qatar.
876 Stream. Bless up.
How often can you say that you were there, you saw a piece of history? A lot of records in the greatest show on earth happened many decades ago. But this morning, history was created for the first time in the tournament's history. 2 goals were scored in first half stoppage time, something that has never ever happened before. The Serbians scoring twice. In the second half, it was the Cameroonians as they battled to a 3-3 draw. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone tuning in across the internet. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is 87 Stream JA. Don't forget to hit that like button and also share as well, and to subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Simon Preston. A massive day we have ahead of us, as each team will have played 2 games within the competition after today. Some massive games to talk about, and we also have an esteemed panel to break it down for us. To my immediate right, we have Michelle Turner, who is making his second appearance with us this show, and we also have national goalkeeper Jadine White with us, Reggae Boys goalkeeper. Gentlemen, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Good morning, Simon. Thanks for having me again.
Jadine, how are things?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here. It's a good experience.
How are things? How's training going, and how's the season going for you locally?
Everything is going good so far. It can get better.
Yeah.
But we just have to work together as a team, and we'll meet our objective at the end.
Yeah, a question that we always ask our guests on the program is your first World Cup in memory. How about for you? How about your first World Cup memory?
My first World Cup memory was 2010. Portugal versus Ivory Coast when I was there from distance.
Yeah.
Almost though. Never went in.
Yeah.
I remember that when I was at school. I was there when Drogba hit the post that game too, and then Ronaldo hit the post. It was very exciting. Yeah.
So Portugal is your side internationally?
Yes. Portugal is my team.
Okay. And is your favorite goalkeeper of all time part of that team too, or a different
No,
team?
from a different nation.
Okay. Which was your favorite goalkeeper?
Andre Blake.
Andre Blake. Very nice. Good answer. Very good answer. We'll get a little bit more information into Jadine White and everything. Of course, he made his debut for the Reggae Boys 4 years ago against Ecuador, a team that is actually at the World Cup. Of course, played against the United States as well. So we'll get right into discussion. Firstly, Michelle, the opening game of the day, rather, Serbia against Cameroon. Cameroon's first point at a World Cup is in 20 years. Your thoughts about the performance today?
Yeah, man. Exciting game. A good way to wake up. A good shot in the arm to wake up. Very attack-minded. Some defensive lapses all over the place, especially in the 2 goals before the end of halftime, as you mentioned. So exciting stuff, and glad to see an African team get another point. Wish it was 3, but yeah.
Yes, that's right. So Cameroon, their first point at a World Cup since 2002. The last time they got a point was the 2002 World Cup. Saudi Arabia, they defeated them by 1-0. Samuel Eto'o scoring on that occasion. On Serbia's side of things, Aleksandar Mitrovic, that's his 2nd goal in World Cup history. So he's now Serbia's all-time leading goal scorer in the World Cup. His last goal, of course, against Switzerland back in 2018. So him writing himself in a little piece of history. Before we go to Jadine, Michelle, you just say 2 points dropped for the Serbians. They have Switzerland next. Switzerland already 3 points on the board.
Yeah, coming into the tournament, looking at this group, I would have said Serbia is the 2nd best team in the group based on the talent they're putting together. So it is disappointing for them to not grab 3 points today. But as I said, I'm glad to say an African team get something, and have a little hope going into the final match day.
Yeah, Jadine, we've seen, different types of goalkeepers in this tournament. Your thoughts about the standard that we're seeing in this competition so far?
So far, you haven't seen where a goalkeeper has made a major mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Too often times, us goalkeepers tend to panic on the big stage and have one error in us. But so far there has been none. Goalkeepers have been solid. I remember betting someone at home that I don't gamble. That's my first bet. Somebody bet me, said that yeah, I'll go World Cup and I'll keep. I don't remember who, but I told him that Simon is going to be Spain's number one because ever since he got his chance, he has always lived up to the standard.
What do you think is the reason for that? The former, is it the communication with the defense? The positioning. What helps to ensure that they stay to that good standard?
Communication is a big part of it because the more you correspond, the less shots will come towards you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Simon is playing at athletic club where he comes under pressure, so he has to rule his 18-yard and he has to be dominant. Playing into a Spain team where most of the time they're gonna have the ball, he might have to save 6 or 7 shots per game, while at his club he probably have to save 10 and 15. So it's easier to save. It's easier for him to get along with the boys and in the Spain national team, and it's easy for him to do his job because he's saving less shots than what he's used to.
So far, which goalkeeper has stood out the most to you in this tournament?
Well, Ochoa has always been a welcome man. You have to give him that. Matt Turner has been good for the US.
Mm-hmm.
He's solid. I've always admired him. He's solid. But I would say the goalkeeper that is really doing his thing is Courtois.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though the Belgian defense is really letting him down,
Mm-hmm.
he's doing his part.
And when you look at this tournament as well, Jadine, and you see players that you've played against on Ecuador, on USA, does that give you that motivation that we have to be back there 4 years' time?
I had the same conversation with somebody that I played against these players, and it still feels unreal that the players that I'm watching on TV, I've had the chance to share pitch with them. It shows that there is a lot of room for development and there's a far way to go, because if I am playing against these players and they're there, what's stopping me from going there?
Indeed. Well, what we're going to do right now, before we get deeper in discussion, is show you the matches that we have today and also the schedule of proceedings. We do have Group H to come, and there is a fixture coming up at 8 o'clock, as you're seeing right now. We have our pre-game show right now. Earlier it was Cameroon 3, Serbia 3. At 8 o'clock, it's South Korea against Ghana. At 11, it is Brazil against Switzerland. And at 2 o'clock, it is a JD side Portugal as they take on Uruguay. We'll have our post-game show at 4 o'clock. And just a reminder as well that after today will be the last day where we'll have a 7:15 a.m. and a 4 p.m. show. Starting Tuesday, which of course is tomorrow, we'll have 3 shows moving forward. One at 9 o'clock, one at 1 o'clock, and one at 4 o'clock. This is, of course, because the last group stage game for each team in this tournament, you'll have 2 matches at 10 o'clock and 2 matches at 2 o'clock Jamaica time. So we'll have a pre-game show at 9 o'clock, a show at 1 o'clock, which will also serve as a pre-game show to the 2 o'clock fixture, and also wrap up the games from at 10 o'clock, and also a show at 4 o'clock where we look at all the games for the day and look ahead to the next day action as well. So just a reminder, moving forward, the shows will be at 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. So those are the shows that we'll have moving forward. We'll also have some inserts to play for you as well, as it relates to a Jamaican that is currently in Switzerland, a Jamaican that knows a little bit more insight into the Portuguese standpoint as well, and we'll get to that quite shortly. But before that, Machel, the next day in the South Koreans against the Ghanaians, your impressions from what you saw from both teams in their opening game against Portugal and of course against the Uruguayans?
Well, South Korea, we know, will be organized. They'll be very organized. They'll try and get the ball to Son in space.
Mm-hmm.
Ghana was not very organized. They did manage to get something, but they were a bit all over the place, and I think that comes from the team not knowing itself. They brought in a lot of players after qualification, Iñaki Williams, Tariq Lamptey, others. So the team is just getting together during the tournament, and that's really not that great of a sign. So we'll see how they perform today, but we know that the South Koreans will be organized, and they'll be expecting to get out of the group, so they'll be looking to get the 3 points.
JD, your thoughts as well about what you've seen. We've spoken about the European teams, but the African teams as well. Your thoughts about what you're seeing so far from them in this tournament?
So far, I think the Saudi team, they are the only one that's really not backing down from anyone.
Mm-hmm.
They are closing down space. They are pressing people. They're not backing off and giving anyone space to play. I think that's what caught Argentina in the first game.
Yeah.
I used to teams backing off and allowing them to play. But in that first game, as you could see when Di Maria got the ball, 2 and 3 players instantly, no space. He had to turn back the ball every time. So I'm surprised Saudi even lost the second game. But the Cameroon team, they're good. The coaches keep making some changes that affect the game a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The Ghana team, I have to say them. They played a big team in the first game. So, just turn it up a little bit on them.
Yeah, of course, that's IO on the screen. Very critical to the Ghanaian outfit moving forward. They haven't, and of course, they're one of 3 African teams that have been to the quarterfinals of a World Cup. Cameroon, 1990, Senegal, 2002. And we'll, of course, remember 2010 against the Uruguayan outfit. We'll remember Luis Suarez and that handball situation in 2010. So those are the 3 African teams that have been the furthest in World Cup. Nigeria have been to a round of 16, so has Morocco as well. But no African team has been over that quarterfinal sort of hurdle. Marshall, is there a reason why we would put it down to, would you say, lapses in concentration, in discipline, why we haven't seen other African teams made the strides?
I think it's an issue of depth. The breadth of talent in the national teams in Africa is so wide. You have some players playing in top leagues and some players who are playing at home. So if there's a change to be made, you can't have the same quality for quality. If an injury or a card suspension, something like that, there's the same quality doesn't come off of the bench. It's not like Portugal or France or England. Those teams have quality backups in place, but the African teams don't, and that's just a matter of development. So hopefully it's something that will come along. What I am glad to see this tournament is that the 5 African teams are coached by 5 African coaches, and that is a brilliant sign for development of the sport on the continent. Hopefully that extends to the players and the amount of experience that they can get at high level.
And just on the South Korean side of things as well, Michelle, we've seen Hyunmin Son being the top scorer of the EPL. Would you say, coming into the tournament, one of the best players coming from the EPL specifically?
Yeah, he's been consistently showing his quality in the EPL, despite who he plays for, and the fact that they really don't win anything. But he's been quality, and he's been dependable for his country as well. But he'll need to have big performances in order to get them to the next round, which I'm sure they want to do. They want to get to the level that they were at in 2002 when they got to that quarterfinal.
Yes, indeed. As it relates to Hyunmin Son, he's just 1 goal away from being South Korea's top goal scorer in World Cup history. An Jung-won, and of course Ji-sung Park, who of course Manchester United fans will know quite well, all have 3 goals, and as well Hyunmin Son as well. So just 1 goal away from being South Korea's highest scorer in this tournament. The South Korean team as well has also introduced players that were part of their team that was at the Under-20 World Cup back in 2019, where they went on to have a deep run in the competition and actually went on to be runners-up that year in particular. So we'll see how they mesh in this competition in specifically. But the big game before the 2 o'clock fixture that Jadine is looking for is the Brazil-Switzerland encounter. And we do have an insert that we'd like to play for you, and then we'll get some reactions from our panel as it relates to both sides, the Swiss side and also the Brazilian side. But what we're going to do, we're going to play an interview that was done with Rashid Hall, who is a Jamaican that is living in Switzerland and giving just the mood and what it is like in Switzerland, expectations, especially ahead of this game against 5-time winners Brazil. Have a listen. Now, looking ahead to this World Cup in particular in Qatar, do you feel that sense of buzz and excitement where you are, or the November start has made things a bit lukewarm?
Honestly, I think it's it's made it a bit lukewarm. It's made it cold. I mean, I live in a cold area. You know, it's today's 8 degrees, so it's hard to get into that summer energy that you used to. There'd normally be massive fan zones in the main areas of town where 6, 7,000 people are able to gather and watch the games outside. In the summer, the sun is up until 10 p.m. here, so you pretty much should be able to watch all the games with sunlight. It's a totally different experience. I went to a fan zone on Friday. It's an indoor fan zone. And it still had a bit of energy, but it was low key. England USA match, and there are probably 100 persons in there. You know, the pubs are probably full of the Brits, but it definitely the winter for us, anyways. The winter World Cup has definitely dwindled certain things around it. That being said, I think there's also issues with Qatar and just, you know, generally speaking, the negative press around that as well. But I've been saying it over and over that I think the sporting element will be great, and it will immediately propel things going forward. We've started to see that already with certain results, and going forward into next week, I think that excitement will definitely build. But it will be it will always going to be different because it is not out as much as you would be during the warm times.
Yeah, and of course you're aware that Switzerland began the campaign with a great victory over Cameroon, 3 points in the bag. What are the expectations like amongst fans, amongst media, all stakeholders involved within Switzerland?
You know, I think Swiss football has come a very far way. Under Petkovic before, which was the coach for a number of years, they achieved new heights with the sport. Historically, football is not a massive sport in Switzerland, but it's definitely changed in the last 20 years. There's also been an influx of people who've come into Switzerland from other countries, from the Balkans, as you can see that reflected also in their team. And it's changed a lot about, you know, the thought process around the sport. In the last few years, Switzerland has maintained a high level, even though one could argue prior to maybe the last 2 years, they didn't necessarily have star players. But they have a system, and you can see that in every town in Switzerland, there's football pitches, both synthetic and grass. And, you know, there's the whole system works. The system is set by the National Federation and passed down by the coaches. I have a friend who's a Jamaican or Canadian. He's from Canada, but his parents are Jamaican, and he coaches here. And he tells me that they're instructed as to how they should coach from a higher level, you know, based on the lessons that they're taught and things. And people come around and check to ensure that they're following the playbook. So you can see that in the Swiss team. They always play a certain way, not necessarily the most attacking team, but very technical, very doing the right things, which is typically Swiss's cultures, anyways. And you see the results. You see the results with that. I think the peak of that would have been Euro 2020, last year in 21, when they defeated France, you know, and almost went to the semifinals by defeating Spain, lost on penalties. That's massive for a country of 8 million, you know, and Swiss, and when football is not a massive sport like that. So there's now an expectation for the team to do well. And that it has become the standard that it's expected that they'll go at least to round of 16. I think for the Swiss, quarterfinals would be a goal. You know, I think they'll come out of the group. There's going to be a big match at the end, I think, against Serbia. And we know from the last World Cup that there were some issues and tensions between the two based on the players that we have who are from the Balkans and the historical issue between certain countries and Serbia. But that's going to make for an exciting game because I think that would be the decider to go forward. Last time Swiss won it, so let's see this time around. But the expectation is high because of the recent great results of the team. The new coach now, Murat Yakin, has, you know, adapted a team that has already been playing well and has continued to do that. I mean, I must add as well, if you look at the Swiss team, you can see that it's the same core of players. When I compare myself as somebody who works in sport in Jamaica for such a long time, I think that's a massive difference. You know 6 or 7 of the players for sure who are the core of the Swiss team for the last 7 to 8 years. The Shaqiri, the Xhaka, Jan Sommer in goal, Rodriguez at left back, and a few others. You know, these players have been in the team for quite some time. New blood has come in, Akanji, etc. But it's the same shape, you know, and so you show that there is a certain style of play that continues, and it augurs well for the future for them.
And a massive game ahead today for the Swiss as they play Belgium. What are your thoughts about, you know, the mood, what it will be like? Well, I'm sure the pubs will be packed in other areas. The expectation or thoughts and feelings of the Swiss fans going into the Brazil game, is it we'll grab a point and we'll take on Serbia, or we're going to take them on just like how we handled the French and of course the Spanish last year?
It's Brazil, and I think, and it's interesting because it's almost the same group as the last World Cup. Serbia, Brazil, Switzerland, it was Costa Rica last time. This time it's Cameroon. I don't remember the last result against Brazil. It might have even been a draw, I
Yeah,
think.
1-1.
So hey, you played them at the last World Cup and you drew. Why not feeling like you can get at least a point this time around? Swiss team is basically the same, maybe a little bit better with players now in the Premier League. When you see Fabian Schär as a defender who starts for Newcastle and is doing so well and does not start for Switzerland, it says something. So I think they're going there to try to win. I mean, definitely want to get a point, but try to win. This Brazil team is better than it was 4 years ago. But as England has showed, as you know, other teams are showing, I don't know if the first match is the only match to judge by, you know. So I mean, not England alone, but see tonight with Spain and Germany as well. You know? So let's see. Or we saw, you know, last time how the result is. So let's see how it goes. But I think they definitely want to get a point from that and set themselves up well for that final game. But I would not be surprised if the mentality is let's go out there to try to get 3 and see how it goes.
So back in 2009, Switzerland won the Under-17 World Cup, and in that squad they had players such as Granit Xhaka, Haris Seferovic and Ricardo Rodriguez, individuals that are still part of this Swiss team and have gone on to represent their country at the senior level and have been key components to their team as well. Xherdan Shaqiri, this is his 4th tournament. Can you believe that? His 4th tournament. He joins Valan Barami, who has played at 4 World Cups. So he has been around for quite some time and certainly making headwaves himself. Machel, let me start with you here. Switzerland might not have that one big name or world-class player, but certainly as a unit, they've always proven to be efficient.
Yeah, as a unit, they're not the most exciting. They'll just be solid, and I think that's what they'll try to do today. If they try and play an open game, then Brazil will have their way with them. So they'll look to copy the Serbians, I guess, and be solid and find something on the break somewhere. See if Shaqiri can pull out one last piece of magic or Xhaka can get something going. But yeah, it's going to be a tough task for them today.
Yeah, there he is with Granit Xhaka. Certainly a lot of responsibility on his hands and accountability as the Swiss hope to book a place in the round of 16 of the tournament. They were eliminated at the round of 16 in 2018 where they fell to Sweden by a goal to nil. Back in 2006, it was penalties against Ukraine. 1954 quarterfinals is the furthest that any Swiss team has been at a World Cup. Jadine, let's now look at the Brazil side of things. A lot of conversations about the goalkeeping situation. Alisson or Edison from Manchester City, your thoughts about the man between the sticks?
For me, it's always Edison for me. Like, Alisson's really good. But if you should really look into Manchester City and look at the games they've lost, even in cup competitions, Edison was not the one playing. And their playing style is not as efficient because he's not there. He plays such a big part that it seems as if he's doing nothing.
So you think Edison, Brazil rather, would be better with Edison?
I think Edison is the key to them winning the tournament. I don't think Alisson is good, but Edison just has a little over him for me.
I think Edison has a little more of a presence. I don't know.
That's
like
it. Presence.
Aura kind of thing. Alisson is solid, but I don't think he has the same kind of personality that Edison brings, and that Brazilianness as well. So yeah.
Alisson will try broke the man. Edison not gonna do that. He might go look for the pass, no matter how tight it look. I'm gonna pick the pass.
Yeah.
And that breeds confidence into the Manchester team. If he can bring that into the Brazil team, unstoppable.
Yeah.
Tell us if I don't really go to them foot still. But, you know, it will feel more confident and saying, can make a keeper look like him can pass by better than me. You know what I mean? They push them, but Edison is, I think for me, Edison should be the one keeping.
Okay. And Michelle, you know, there's conversation about the defense as well, you know. A concern with Danilo, so Dani Alves could come into the tournament as well.
Could be Dani Alves, or you could play Eder Militao at right and have more of a 3 at the back system with Alexandra pushing up on the left. So they have 2 options there. Personally, I think the greatest right back whoever lived should play. But that's just me being a fan. I think probably that's what will happen, considering the defensiveness that Switzerland will come out with. He'll want somebody more offensive rather than Teacher will want somebody more offensive rather than playing a centre back at right back. Even though he can play there, he's not going to give the same attacking impetus.
Yeah, and Jadine, Richarlison, 9 in his last 7 for Brazil as well. Many people said, why should he be the number 9? Because his former Tottenham wasn't the best as well. Your thoughts about him being that man?
Me didn't know him ago because the quality where the coach have to pick from, I think if him can get one, if you as a coach have a player who can play 3 positions and not 1, you're gonna bring the player who can play 3. Because everybody who is playing in Brazil's attack can play any side, or through the middle, right, left, even behind the striker. Anybody that's in the top 4. So I think that's what the thinking of the coach is. Firmino is only going to be a false 9 or a 10. I need dynamic movements. So if Richarlison darts out left, the person on left can come inside and it's easy because Vinicius does it at Real Madrid. He plays centre forward with Benzema time. Anthony is really good at it. Martinelli is already a striker. They just turned him into a winger. So it's easy for him when he can have players playing in more than one position on the field.
And Marshall, with no Neymar for the rest of the group stages, do you see an opportunity for perhaps for Rodrigo or Pedro to come into proceedings?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who Chiche goes with, whether it be Rodrigo in that same position as the 10, or he can move Lucas Paqueta up and start Fred or Bruno Guimaraes alongside Casemiro. So it'll be interesting to see. There'll be chances for both those guys, and we'll see who grabs the reins, because even though they say Neymar will be back after the end of the round, you never know. That ankle looks terribly big. So you never know. You might need him for another game or 2 to get to the finals.
Yeah, we'll definitely see and keep you all up to date as it relates to his recovery process. Let's move on to the Portugal versus Uruguay encounter. We have an insert to play for you, but before that, let's get the reactions from a Portuguese fan himself in Jadine White. So, Jadine, you saw the first game against Ghana. How are you feeling now coming into this Uruguay game? Confident?
The last time they knocked us out of the World Cup, so I'm kind of skeptic about it. But when watching the first game, the goals we conceded, we gifted those to Ghana. Simple errors that you don't expect my defenders to be making, especially the second one from Cancel. It's just too fast, man. Run past it. The run past that time, man run even past the ball. That was really unexpected to me. I had to watch it back again. I say, he really does run past, man. So, but I think today they won't give Suarez or Cavani and Nunes any chance at all, because those are better quality strikers than what Ghana had to offer. I don't think they'll give him a chance, and I don't think Costa will be keeping today either.
Really?
Yeah, I think he will be going with Sa.
And that is your preference?
That is my preference, because Sa is really good if you watch him in the EPL. I remember enough times Manchester United is playing Wolves, and I say some can't come off I feel. He's just solid. He hasn't been having a good start to the season, but he's quality all around from what I've seen. So I think he should be the number 1. And I think that they will get another 3-goal victory again. Probably 3-1 if we don't give it none and get them 3-2. But we'll secure our trip to the round of 16 today.
All right, before we get the reactions from Mashal on this, we caught up with Stephen Dabdoub, football analyst, and has been doing some great work with Inter Miami quite recently. He gave his thoughts about the Portuguese as well, and afterwards we get some reactions from Mashal and Lakova to Uruguay.
If I were to say to you, Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, João Felix, and Cristiano Ronaldo, which one of those 4 would you say Portugal needs this player if they're going to have a deep run as well in the competition?
Bruno Fernandes. And that might be a controversial opinion, but Ronaldo, you have to give him credit. Cristiano Ronaldo has had an amazing career, and of course, it's coming to its end, as we can all see, and the recent mishaps and his age and everything. But I think right now Bruno Fernandes is that person that this team should be built around, especially, and could be set up around. yes, Ronaldo's going to be there to score goals. He's changed the way he's played. Before more as a left winger, now he's playing more as a number 9. But I think Bruno Fernandes, like I said, is the key person. He had 2 assists in the first game for Portugal. He had the most carries into the opposition box. So against Ghana. So he is the key player. He was the key creator, and I think he was everything. He made everything tick for Portugal against Ghana.
Yeah. And you saw that game against Ghana as well. Your thoughts about some of the defensive stuff from Portuguese perspective? It seems like a few lapses in concentration with Diaz and of course, other members as well. From the Portuguese perspective, your thoughts about that in particular?
Yeah, I mean, overall, over the past few years, I've had questions about this Portuguese team.
Right.
Regardless of the talent that they have on paper, there's been so many questions, even out of Portugal, about Fernando Santos and the setup and approach he's taken. I remember that game in the Euros last year against Germany, where they were just completely overloaded. A front line of 5 for Germany, they were playing that 3-4-3, ended up attacking with 5 and completely overloaded Portugal and played a 5v4. And there was an inability from Fernando Santos to kind of recognize that and adopt that. Germany were playing everything, on the flanks and overloading that 5v4. It is concerning. I was very impressed, I do have to say, in terms of in possession with the build-up play from Portugal. There is at times when they're kind of reaching that finishing phase, a lack of ideas and a lack of being dynamic at times. But like I said, Bruno Fernandes was pretty impressive. And then again, regardless of his career coming to an end and maybe that slowdown in pace, when you have somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo in and around the penalty area, it create the goals will be there. But the defensive setup is a little concerning. Like I said, the lack of organization, the lack of concentration, they are a vulnerability.
So there you go, from the Portuguese angle of things, as Stephen Dabdub giving his thoughts. Now let's go over to the Uruguay side of things. Machel, are they a dark horse in your eyes, or just a generation a little bit, behind?
Well, firstly, I think these are 2 of the most underwhelming teams, considering the talent that they have in their ranks. The football they play is not up to the level that you would expect of them. I think Uruguay is a little bit between generations. You still have Suarez and Cavani, but you're trying to bring through Nunes and other younger guys. So they're kind of trying to do a balancing job. You still have Godin around the back. So it's a little bit mixed up. They do have quality talent, but I don't think the coach has set them up correctly to make the best of that talent. I mean, you have somebody like Fede Valverde, who's been phenomenal this season and has grown massively the last couple of seasons at Real Madrid. And I don't think he's been optimized. I think a 4-4-2 where he's in a role where he would play like at Real Madrid, kind of a right center midfielder, right winger, kind of hybrid would get the best out of him. Plus you would have more attacking threat with Suarez partnered up with a Nunes right beside him, rather than Nunes out on the left, kind of isolated. So we'll see what happens, but I think there's a lot they can do to improve themselves without adding anybody. Just make some slight changes here and there.
All right, and we just have a few minutes left, but before we do that, we want to catch up with Jadine just a little bit. Jadine, we know early in the year you had some opportunities for trials overseas. What was the experience like just being in North America and being able to train with those professional teams?
It was really good. I learned a lot, especially from the goalkeeping coaches. It has helped me to become a better player and a better professional, because with those clubs, when they say 3, you have to be there an hour before, and the way Phoenix Rising especially go about their fines, I found it fun. Yeah, because they had a wheel where you spin for what you want. So it's really random, and it was a really good experience. I had got quality training. It pushed my body a lot. I wasn't in the best of shape last season. I think even in the JPL, I had a really awful season. And now I've come back and I'm really doing well, but I think I can do better, and I'm really pushing to do better.
Physically, how are you feeling? You feel you're better than where you were last season?
way better and physically, mentally, I'm way better than I was last season. And I'm training harder. I have a little injury right now, but hopefully it goes away for the game Sunday. But it's really better than last season. Last season I was really awful. Someone was telling me that, no man, just average me. I said, no brother, I'd awful. Like I always made one mistake. Even if I keep a clean sheet, I make a mistake, and it's so many times I just look it not going at the goal. No matter what, it was just really an awful season for me.
And when you look at next year, when you have the national team as Gold Cup and Nations League and a lot of friendly opportunities, you're looking forward to the busy year ahead?
Yes, my objective at the end of the season is for a particular number of clean sheets, and then that would give me the opportunity to qualify myself to be a part of the Gold Cup and the Nations League team, which I am really hoping to be a part of. So I'm just working hard at it, and hopefully I'll get what I am working for in the end.
All right, all the best to you. You know, keep up the great work, and we really, really appreciate you being on the program with us this morning. So, guys, just a recap. We're going to show you the graphic quite shortly as it relates to the matches for the day. Don't forget that we're back again at 4 o'clock for the post-game show. But just a reminder that the matches at 8, 11 and 2. At 8 o'clock, South Korea against Ghana. At 11, it's Brazil against Switzerland. And at 2 o'clock, it's Portugal versus Uruguay. Post-game show at 4 o'clock. Join us then where we recap all the matches for the day and look ahead to tomorrow and give you some insight into the shows that we have for later this week. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Bye-bye for now.
Eight 7 6 Dream. Bless up.